Hey everyone, today I am going to be doing my mid-season garden tour. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jessica. I am a backyard gardener in central New Jersey, zone 7A. I grow in 4 raised beds, 2 patio boxes, about 90 grow bags and containers, and about 300 square feet of in-ground space. As you can see behind me, I have a lot of my shade cloth up right now. This is the second day of a week-long heat wave. I'm sure many of you are experiencing it, so I'm doing my best to keep my garden thriving during this horribly brutal heat. I wish I had come out earlier to film this. I'm just grateful I got the rest of the video done before this heat wave kicked in. So let's get started with the tour. Starting in the back here with the tomatoes, several of them are already passing the top of the cage, and many of them are approaching the top. And this is what they look like 1 month ago at the end of May. So they've put on significant growth in 1 month. I've been fertilizing them weekly with Neptune's tomato and veg. All of the plants have flowers, and this one is one of my indeterminate varieties, and it already has some fruit on it. This is the only determinate variety that I'm growing. It's called Cherry Buzz, and it already has fruit on it as well. If you are growing determinate variety tomatoes, be sure not to trim any of the suckers on those, because that's where you'll get a lot of your fruit. And I do leave most of the suckers on my indeterminate tomatoes so I can maximize how many tomatoes I get. This is one of 3 of my overwintered peppers, all jalapenos, that I pulled at the end of last season. I am very happy with the way these turned out, and I am going to do it again this year. So I'll pull the 3 jalapenos again, and I'm going to pull the best of all the peppers I'm growing. It is so much easier than growing seedlings. I'll do a whole video on my process for overwintering the peppers and also the pepper varieties that I'm growing. But these 2 are the other 2 overwinter peppers, and they already have fruit on them. So they're so far ahead of the seedlings. I didn't pinch any peppers or buds once I put them outdoors, like I've been doing with the seedlings I transplanted. But I did pinch them when they were indoors. But I am really happy. They look great. They're putting on a ton of new growth, and they have so many flowers on them. So I'm excited to see how many peppers I actually get on these compared to the seedlings. Overwinter peppers got 10-gallon bags. The majority of the peppers, though, I did put in 5-gallon, except for these, which I did, I had extra of all of them, so I put 1 in a 10 and 1 in a 5-gallon to see the comparison, if it really made a difference growing them in the 10 versus the 5. And then this is what they all look like when I planted them a month ago. So you can see they also have put on significant growth, and I have been fertilizing these with the Neptune's fish and seaweed every week. Now this side over here, I've been experiencing some challenges with my cucumbers, zucchini, and some of my eggplant. These have not been doing as well as everything else. This is what they looked like a month ago, but when I transplanted them out, they were severely attacked by cucumber beetles, and I didn't think they were going to survive. So I sprayed them with the kaolin clay. I also covered them with this netting. It has helped, and they have recovered somewhat, but you know, compared to the growth of the tomatoes and the peppers, they are lagging behind a little bit. The cucumber I had planted here got bacterial wilt from the cucumber beetles. So I pulled it, resowed. I covered it because seedlings are more susceptible to disease and bugs because they're very vulnerable. These 3 cucumbers are still recovering from the damage, but they are growing. And I also had to replace 3 of my Mexican sour gherkins. I also have a lot of wild rabbits in my yard, and I did underestimate them. They jumped up and bit the tips off of 2 of my 4 eggplants that I have back here. They did spit out the leaves, so they don't like the kaolin clay, which was good. So there was still some plant here to survive, and it has sent up a ton of side shoots. As luck would have it, they bit 1 of each variety, so it left me with 2 plants that were undamaged, and here's what they looked like a month ago. Now, because they bit 2 of those plants, 1 Chinese, 1 Thai, I figured I'd do the same for my other varieties. Now, these 2 are millionaire eggplants. They're a little bit bigger, and I have these in 10-gallon bags. I pinched the tip of this one. I should mention all of my other eggplant are in either 5-gallon bags or pots. This is what they look like a month ago. And then over here I have another Thai and another Chinese, so I'm not going to touch these because these are the ones that the rabbits bit on the other side. But you can see how full they are. And then these three are called Patio Baby, and I pinched this one here. This is what they look like a month ago. Now these are tomatillos. One is super tall and leggy, and the other two are full but quite short. And I think this is really my fault because I had started them a little too early indoors, and they may have been root bound when I transplanted them out. They are recovering. They're just doing so very slowly. And I think the tall one I'm going to top, so it will send out a signal to branch out more and get bushier. This is my only ground cherry. I did sow several, and I did two varieties. This is the only one that survived. It is nice and full and it's starting to put on some height. And this is probably one of my all-time favorite garden snacks. Well, this and fresh peas are. And unlike tomatillos, you don't need to plant more than one to get a good harvest. They are a little sweet and a little tart, and they taste like pineapple. These are 12 of many of the basil plants that I'm growing in the garden. I have some in my raised beds and some I have in the grow bags with the tomatoes and peppers because they do make excellent companion plants. I have been pinching in between the leaf nodes since they were seedlings indoors. By the end of the season, these are going to be massive and so bushy. So if you are growing basil, make sure that you are pinching often. This is what they look like when they came out. All of my seedlings were very small when I transplanted them out, and this was a month ago. These are snap peas that finished about 3 weeks ago. Now, snap peas actually grow a little bit longer than regular peas. They are planted as either a spring or fall crop. I've left several on here to dry out so that I can either replant them in the fall or save them for next spring. This is my first year growing in this back area and also growing in the ground. I had some trees and shrubs I needed to remove, but also this is clay soil. And I was a little hesitant to grow in the ground because I was worried about the wild rabbits, like I mentioned earlier, and I have a lot of squirrels and chipmunks, and I thought they'd be eating everything at the ground level, and they have been, but I've since protected everything. But the clay soil holds onto nutrients really well, and it is really impressing me. Everything in this area is doing phenomenal. Look at this thing. This is a tromboncino. It's also known as rompicante. It is an Italian summer squash. You can grow it as a winter squash if you leave the fruit on the vine and pull it before frost. And then once it's cured, it will last for like 4 months. It can be eaten like a butternut squash would be eaten. It is massive. It already has fruit on it, loads of flowers, and it's branching out like crazy. It's over 6 feet tall. And just in a couple of days, it has already put on a foot. This is what it looked like 2 days prior, and this is what it looked like a month ago. I've grown these in the past, and they have never gotten this big. So it's either the clay soil or it's a combination of that and the trellis. This is my second one. It's not quite as big. It is on the back of the trellis, so it may not be getting as much sunlight, or it could just be I didn't amend the soil as well. And then this is a cantaloupe, and it's a small variety cantaloupe, and this is my second cantaloupe. This one was bitten at the root level by a rabbit before I put the cage around it, and luckily I had backups before I composted them, so I was able to replace it. Here is my 1-year-old multi-graft fruit tree with the nectarines, peaches, plums, and apricots. Although all the apricots were dropped early on, I probably will be harvesting these sometime mid-July, I'm hoping. I'm also thinking about getting a second tree. So if you guys have any recommendations for me, drop a comment below. Over here I have potatoes growing in 20-gallon grow bags. These, like everything else, are sprayed with the kaolin clay, and it has helped significantly with the pest pressure. Potatoes are part of the nightshade family, just like tomatoes, eggplant, and peppers. And they also come in determinate and indeterminate varieties like tomatoes. These are determinate variety, and once all the tops die back, they'll be ready for harvest, but they don't need to be harvested. You can actually leave them if the soil isn't too wet, because otherwise they may rot. I thought I had space on my trellis, but I didn't, so I direct sowed a spaghetti squash and a small variety pumpkin here. this is not going to last. They're going to get too heavy for this setup, so I'm going to have to figure something out. But right now they're so small, I have time to figure that out. Over here, I sowed some corn. So I have 18 plants in this 20 square foot area. And years ago, I did try to grow corn, but I only sowed a few and nothing happened. And what I learned is that the best way to grow corn is in a dense block like this, which helps with wind pollination. Otherwise, the chance of growing corn is very low because they need to be planted really close together. Over here I have dahlias. These I started from seed. You can grow dahlias from tubers, and in warmer zones you can leave the tubers right in the ground. Otherwise, in areas with harsh winters, you need to dig them up, but a lot of us probably grow them as annuals. And dahlias do benefit from pinching. So if you pinch off the center growing tip, they will send outside branches. It encourages a bushier plant, and then you get more flowers. As you can see, the rabbits did strike again. All these bare spots is where I had dahlias that they ate, because they're actually living here in my yarrow. And this was a little too close to home for them. And before I got up this cage around the dahlias, they got to the plants and ate them. So I sowed some zinnia seeds here, and they should go pretty fast in the warm soil. And this is what they look like a month ago. I want to make a quick mention about the yarrow. It is a flowering perennial. It's a medicinal herb. It is hardy in both the cold weather and the hot weather. It is super easy to grow, and it attracts a ton of pollinators. It also has these beautiful flowers. And lastly, I planted some sweet potato slips in these milk crates. So I've never grown sweet potatoes before, so we'll see how they do. In this raised bed, I planted garlic, and in the front half is where I had the Softneck garlic, and in the back half is where I have my hardneck garlic. And you can see here earlier in the week, I pulled the Softneck garlic. It just wasn't doing anything, and I wanted to clear out the bed and put some zinnias in. And you can see that the bulbs just never formed, and it's probably because of the absolutely terrible winter. We had freezing temperatures, and I had snow on these raised beds the entire season. Unlike hardneck garlic, Softneck garlic does prefer a milder climate, and in zone 7 we're too hit or miss. We've had mild winters for the past several years, but this past year was terrible, and it's just very unpredictable here. So I'm going to stick with the hardneck garlic. I'm waiting for a few more leaves to dry out before I pull the garlic, so I'm probably about 2 weeks out. But I will say I don't like the way it's starting to look, so I am concerned because we've had a lot of rain that the bulbs aren't forming. So we'll see in 2 weeks how they're doing. The oregano is doing great as usual. It's just one of my best things that I've ever planted, and I love oregano. And I just ran out of everything I dried last season, so this was the perfect time to harvest some oregano. In fact, I've done 2 harvestings of oregano already. In these 2 raised beds, I have about 8 varieties of beans planted, which I will freeze because I like to just have them ready for like all fall and winter long. I also have some herbs and flowers, and before the beans I had some cooler weather vegetables like radishes, peas, and some bok choy and kale, and I also had beets. And some things did okay, and most things did not do great. Just like winter, we have very unpredictable springs. We have hot weather, cold weather, very rainy, wet weather. And so it's really hit or miss with the cool weather vegetables. And here I have carrots. Carrots also cool weather crop. They are just at maturity now, but rather than pull all of them, I have started to dig around sort of like where the shoulders would be of the carrots. Some of them haven't formed at all, but I figured I'd pull one of each just to see if they've sized up properly before I go ahead and pull everything. This is a rondo carrot, is a round variety. It should be about 2 inches wide. It's just a little smaller than it should be, so I'm gonna leave it another week to see if it sizes up. This is called Eskimo. It should be about 5.5 to 6 inches long. This one looks pretty good, so this is probably ready to be pulled. This one is called New Corota, and it's just not formed at all. I'm not sure what's going on with it. I mean, same bed, right? Same soil, same watering, but nothing. So I'm just kind of at a loss. I am going to replant all of these cooler weather vegetables. again midsummer for fall. So maybe I'll have better luck because we're going from warm soil to cool weather. So they should germinate fast, but then grow in their preferred conditions. And then this one is Bolero, and it just hasn't sized up at all. Along the border, I have two types of okra. Okra is a heat lover, so if you direct sow it now, it should have plenty of time to grow. And then I also sowed some chamomile for the first time. These I pinched the growing tip indoors, and you can see just how bushy this is, and it's just starting to flower now. But these I never pinched, and you can see a stark difference between the two. These are just very tall and leggy. So pinching is something that really benefits many plants, including the chamomile. So over here I have my two strawberry beds. These are June bearing and they are ready for a renovation, which is the process of cutting these back and cleaning them up. I'm going to be doing a video on that, so be on the lookout. And I wanted to expand my perennial herbs. So I started some thyme and rosemary indoors this season. I'm going to leave them in pots until I figure out where to put them, but I think they may do really well in the back here in the clay. And then I also have some lemon balm I started this year. I was growing a lot of mint, and they're in the same family. They're vigorous growers and they're very easy to grow. They also benefit from pinching. It'll make them bushier, so pinch these often as well. And I sowed some zinnia in pots, although I oversowed, so I've been thinning these out. But these also benefit from pinching, and when you pinch, they are going to also push outside branches, which will then produce more flowers. So a good portion of today's story is how pinching benefits a lot of these different plants. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this garden tour. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos.